Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kristi.
Today, we are going to be talking about the subject of shame. But first,
If you would like to pause the podcast and go and share, subscribe, rate, or even leave us a review if you've enjoyed our previous episodes, feel free to do that and then rejoin us because we're not going anywhere. Heather, let's get into shame and the
I
shame
know,
spiral that sometimes comes with dog behavior
yes, and
and
dog
owning a
ownership
dog.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reminded of my journey with
Mhm.
my pit bull Lucy earlier, and I wanted to talk about the subject of shame because I think that it is something that should be talked about more. And I think it's something that we should all be willing to be open about when not just shame in general, but when something happens with our dogs in regards to behavior or training or whatever it is, and it just doesn't go the way that we expected. Because a lot of times when things don't go the way we expect, there's also a lot of heartbreak and disappointment that goes along with that. And
A lot of fear.
a lot of fear, yes.
Yeah.
And what you really need is support and understanding. But instead, we all sort of close in on ourselves and send ourselves down this little shame spiral. And
Mhm.
so I know we've talked about my situation with my Lucy before, but I thought that we would revisit it and then just kind of talk about this topic in general. As a reminder, I did adopt a pit bull Lucy when she was 14 weeks old, and we ended up having her until she was 11, and the majority of her life was spent in our home in a crate and rotate situation because Lucy ended up not being dog social with the dogs that she lived with. And it was a really long journey, but I want to back up to when we started having problems when she was about 16 months old. So, first of all, at that point in my life, I was already a hardcore pit bull advocate, and
Mhm.
I was an advocate of not just pit bulls, but rescue in general. I was so passionate about pit bulls and how amazing they are, and I still believe that they are amazing. I've had four. I wouldn't have had four in my life and talk about them the way I do with so much love if I didn't think they are amazing. But at the
Right.
same time, having a pit bull who, one, is a rescue, which you're advocating for, and then
Mhm.
two, ends up having dog issues. And then three, on top of it, honestly, is a female. It brings up all these different myths and all of these different things that people say and think about and talk about, and especially people who are anti pit bull. And I felt so much shame and I felt
Mhm.
so much disappointment with
Mhm.
myself. I didn't put it on my dog, and it's not her fault. It wouldn't belong there. But I just felt so much shame. That is the only word. And
Yeah.
I spent a really long time not talking about the fact that Lucy didn't get along with other dogs and that she couldn't be in a home, socializing with her housemates because there was this big I didn't want to do that to the pit bull reputation, and I didn't want to do that to a rescue dog's reputation, and I
Mhm.
didn't want people to look at her and just see that. And let
Mhm.
me tell
Right.
you, I was judged plenty just based on Lucy being a pit bull.
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
I had her at an agility trial and was asked if I fight her as well. So I literally had
Oh, Lord.
those things happen, but for me, I was living this really isolated period in my life where
Mhm.
I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody or be honest about what was going on except for people really really close to me, and I wanted to protect her and protect pit bulls in general, but
Yeah.
what I really ended up doing was probably not being well, I wasn't being real. I felt all of this embarrassment, and there were so many people that
Mhm.
I could have talked to if we had all just been open about it, I guess is where I'm coming from. Christy's nodding. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm I'm adamantly agreeing because I even wrote down on the notes that I wanted to make sure that we hit was it's important to know like where shame comes from, why does it exist,
Yeah.
those types of things. And one of the ideas that just was so prevalent in my mind was one, you don't want anyone to think less of your dog or of you. First of
Yes.
all, you don't want people to think that your dog is a jerk. You want people to like you and your dog. Some people will say, I don't care about that. But let's be honest, you don't want them to think you have an out of control dog or to think
Yep.
less of you or your dog. But also there's a lot of pressure put on adopters
Yes.
to not put rescues or pit bulls specifically in a bad light.
Yeah.
And I know so many people will say things to me like, "Well, I kind of want to talk to you about this, but it's about a pit bull and they're not so great." And I'm like, "That's okay. I don't believe every pit bull is amazing. I
Yeah.
don't think every pit bull's like Lucy. I don't think,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
every
they're all bad."
bulldog's amazing. I don't think every golden retriever is amazing.
We had to convince you to think Tater is amazing.
I
So,
mean, that's true. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, dogs
yeah.
will be dogs will be dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is a lot of pressure because I think
Yeah.
the rescue community has done a good job at kind of advertising the idea of these are not second-hand dogs or second-rate dogs
Right.
or less than, but sometimes that idea comes with the idea that they don't have any behavioral issues
Right.
ever.
Right.
And I'm not saying that if you adopt a dog, you get behavioral issues
No,
automatically.
every
That's not
dog
at
can have
all
a
what I'm
behavior
saying.
issue. Right.
Yeah. But any dog, yeah, can have a behavior issue, and so I think people kinda go into that protecting because they don't want anyone else like, if I'm honest and I share my story, does that mean like, none of my family or friends go
Right.
and adopt a dog now?
Right.
Do they all hate pit bulls now?
Right.
Do they all hate whatever breed? It doesn't even have
Right.
to be, do they all hate Rottweilers now? Like,
Right.
whatever.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
pressure.
it is. Yeah.
And I was thinking about how once I started being open and honest about Lucy's issues, as I grew up and became more secure in who I was as a dog owner, I was more willing to talk about these things, right? So as time went on, I used to just say to people, they would say, because honestly, for a long time, I didn't get this question later with her in life, but for a long time, I would say, "Oh yeah, we have two pit bulls." And one of the first things people would ask me was, "Do they get along?"
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I will be straight with you, I have lied. I have
Yeah.
lied in the past for the sake of other pit bulls who need homes. And because I knew that it wasn't about her being a pit bull. I mean, let's just go back and listen to our It's All in How You Raise Them and genetics and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger than that. And I understood that. And I understood that the person who was asking that question was uneducated. And so I'm like, automatically like shelling up and being like, oh, yeah, she's fine, when in
Mhm.
reality, I'm not being real. And that's not
Mhm.
helping anything either. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that at this point in my life because, well, it is what it is. I mean, people, you're just going to hear it. Like, Jesus, we have a
Yeah.
podcast. But um, I also have had a really long journey in dogs in general. And so I feel, comfortable kind of voicing what my beliefs are at this moment in time, which are ever evolving. And
Yes.
so I don't feel all that pressure. But now, if someone said to me something, about Lucy not getting along, I would probably say, well, we're all individuals and I don't like everyone I meet and I'm not forced to live with them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
not helpful to people who are living in this situation right now, no matter what the issue is. From, hey, one dog starts barking at the other dog, which makes them both start barking, and now we have a bark fest, right? To something
Yeah.
as serious as inner household aggression, the whole
Mhm.
gamut.
Yeah.
I just want to open the door for honest, real conversation about how we're living with our dogs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, a lot too comes from, nowadays, maybe not so much like when you first got your Lucy, but nowadays, what I see online, on social media, is perfection. two dogs playing together who are best friends,
Yes.
but I don't, or pictures of, the family and the
Yeah.
kids and the dogs all together. What you don't see is that 2 weeks ago, the toddler accidentally opened the crate and there was a huge fight and there
Yeah.
was blood everywhere.
Yeah.
It was a bloodbath because, they fought over a resource
Which was our
that
reality. Yes.
yeah, and
Well,
and
we don't have
mom
a
just
toddler,
scooped
but
up the toddler. Yeah, scooped up the toddler and got their kids to safety before they could ever come back for the
Mhm.
dogs, to
Yeah.
separate. Nobody is telling you that on social media,
Yeah.
and very few. And I don't know that that's the place to say it, but
Yeah.
I do wanna warn that don't compare yourself when you say, "But I have 50 friends with who are in the same situation and they're
Who
making it
have
work and their dogs are
perfect,
perfect."
air quote, perfect
Yeah.
dogs. Yeah. Let me tell you, Tiago and Tater get along fantastically. However, probably 6 months ago, we did have a start of I mean, it wasn't gonna be like a full-fledged, like, bloodbath, but we had the start of an argument over a piece of pizza crust, okay? And I was, like, in that, "No," like, slow motion, you see it happening,
Slow those
right?
down.
Yeah, and I was too late, and
Oh,
it is the first time that they've been together for 4.5 years that we've ever had something happen, but it did, and that's reality. Does that mean my dogs, can't be together? No, they're sleeping on the floor together right now, but it sure as shit means that the next time I have pizza crust, it's gonna look a little different. But, my point is, I have 2 dogs who get along great, and we still have management. And I have Tiago who's perfect, but we still have things that happen.
because
And
you have a bulldog. No, not because of
because I have a
that.
bulldog,
Because you have 2
because I
dogs
have
living
2
in a house.
dogs. Yes.
Yeah.
And our dogs' relationships are complex. And
Mhm,
so everything is so complex. Feel like you're alone. I hate that for anyone.
mhm.
I hate that
Yeah.
anyone feels like they're alone in their struggles. I hate that anyone feels shameful about something that's going on in their world that doesn't feel perfect because we've all been there. And maybe not in the exact picture, but I want people to feel comfortable enough to be like talked about, for it to be talked about and for them not to be judged. Because also, when we open the lines of communication, sometimes we get solutions or ideas.
Yeah, I think you can get a lot of bad ideas off of social media, so go
For
to
sure.
some trusted resources
Mhm.
first. That would be my suggestion, and then when you're more comfortable, you can share your story,
Yeah.
to help others know that they're not alone either,
Yeah.
if you decide to, if you wanna be brave in that way. But, social media is tough because there's a lot of
It is.
judging eyes for no reason too.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of things get shared,
Yeah.
and everyone has an opinion. Let me tell you, I had an opinion about all sorts of things until I experienced them, and then I was like, wow, that was high and mighty of you, huh, Christy? Like, okay, that didn't just whip into shape like I thought it would. Like now that
Judgy
I'm in it,
bitch.
whew, okay, yeah.
No,
So like, yeah,
it's
go ahead.
true.
For example, like Julius is again the easiest dog to live with, super fun. He has all the amazing qualities, but he is leash reactive. And so I'll be honest, in his defense, I had not been working on that hard
Because you were busy building
in the
food
last
drive
four
and a
months.
dog who
I
didn't
was,
have
I
food
was,
drive.
yeah, I was working on food drive. So the leash reactivity was kind of on the back burner. He was getting some walks. And Lucy was just messing up my life with her health issues. So he wasn't getting consistent walks anyway, which isn't great for him. But a couple weeks ago, I messaged Heather that we had started doing walks consistently. I'm managing. I'm working on some different things for leash reactivity, trying some different things. And I really felt like the day before, I was like, Heather, like I wish
Yeah?
you could see how great he's
She sent me a
being. And
voice message so I could get the whole
literally
picture.
4 minutes before this incident happens, I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna make Heather come on a walk because this is just so amazing, like how much progress he's made. I walk up a hill and there is a dog on a leash who is not even looking at Julius, looking down at a trash can, sniffing the trash can. Julius runs to the end of my long line. And luckily, I always keep a lot of distance, but I was surprised to see a dog up there. He runs barking, growling, snapping, and instantly I'm mad. I am furious with him. I want to take away every resource from him. You don't deserve treats. This is, you guys, I am not proud of this moment. I'm sharing it because what I realized was after talking to Heather and doing some self reflection, I was embarrassed in that moment that I
Yeah.
felt like I was a better trainer than them. And so he had gotten out of my control in front of another human being. Guy doesn't know me. He doesn't care.
No,
He just thinks my dog's a jerk. Who doesn't even know he's a foster? He knows nothing
no,
about me. I'm
no.
never seen that guy
You're
again.
not, Christy, you're not wearing a sign like telling him all the important points about you so that he could then make judgment. He literally knows nothing.
By the way, I do a podcast and now I feel like a fake. But luckily in the moment, I was smart enough to think, don't take away all his resources. Like, even though my initial was like, you don't deserve treat, don't take away his resources. Like, keep doing treat scatters. Do now that you have his attention back, like, let's
Yeah.
re-engage. But then I told Heather all about it.
Yes.
I just expected to be further along, I think, even though I hadn't put the time in. I expected, like, once I did it like a couple times, we would just be, once he had so many great days in a row, I thought we would just be over it now and we could just move on. And even though I know logically that's
Right.
not how it works. Anyone else, I would be like, you're being ridiculous. I love you, but you're being ridiculous.
Well,
So,
and at the end of the day, they are dogs and
yeah.
their needs and wants and all of these different things are completely different from ours. And we can't look at them and say, hey, guy, are you having a rough day? What do you need today? Or, hey,
Yeah.
guy, do you not feel like going for a walk today because you have no spoons left? Or, hey, guy, does your leg hurt today because you're like 11 and you have arthritis? You get what I'm saying. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't have these conversations with them, but yet we are still going out. We're having
Mhm.
them have an off day. We're being embarrassed about it. And then we're putting ourselves into this little shame box and we're like, oh, Christy, you suck. You're a terrible handler. Oh, Christy,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Right.
ah,
It's the shame spiral because it started with like, you suck. You don't know what you're doing as a trainer. So you suck as just a dog parent in general. And then it went to like, well, you're a fake because you're doing a podcast. So
oh,
you're a jerk because you thought about taking away his treat in
also,
this
you're the
situation,
shittiest
which
foster we've ever seen.
like probably someone should take this foster dog from me because like, whew,
So they're taking away Julia's from Christy
yeah,
because she's a
clearly,
shitty
clearly
foster, and clearly it is a
terrible.
damn miracle she's kept Lucy alive for 12 years. I mean, really, people.
It kind of is.
Oh gosh. No, but you know what else I was just thinking about? I was thinking about how we also do it not just to protect the dogs when they're living, we do it to protect them in death too. Because
Mhm.
remember how I was saying
Their
when
memories.
everything happened with Cash? And
Yeah,
I didn't want to talk about it because I
sure.
didn't want anyone to remember him that way, as if that small little snippet in time was enough to erase everything else. And then that made me think about the fact that there's an entire group on Facebook of people who have had to do behavioral euthanasias that has literally grown to, oh my gosh, I don't even know how big it is now. It's tens of thousands of
That
people.
that group is losing Lulu, right?
Using Lulu, in case anyone
Yeah.
needs to find support. It is not to help you discuss behavior or anything like that or help make a decision.
No.
There's other groups for that. This is solely a grief support group. And it's this incredible community that has grown, but it grew from the idea of shame. I mean, it grew because a very well respected trainer and dog behaviorist chose to euthanize her foster, who was dog aggressive and really horrifically attacked one of her personal dogs. And
Mhm.
she was maligned and just torn apart online because she was
Mhm.
public about it. Instead of going into that shame spiral, she turned it into this legacy and this beautiful support community for other people who have been through this. But I guess my point is here is this massive community of people who have found each other because they felt so much shame over something that just is an awful, awful thing to happen in their life.
Yeah. And I guarantee whatever you're going through with your dog or dog's behavior, whatever it is, you're not the first person to go through that. You're
No.
not the only person to go through
And
that.
that doesn't lessen it because it is
Yeah.
freaking hell. Whatever you're going
Yeah.
through, it sucks. It's
That's not
miserable.
to,
Right.
yeah, it's definitely not to lessen that, but it's to let you know, like, you're not alone in it
Yep.
either. You're not the first person. You won't be the last person.
No.
So find other people who either can support you because they've been through it or
Yeah.
can support you in a way because they're familiar
Yes.
with those behaviors or that situation. And I don't think you should feel shame, you know. I
No.
think it goes back just like you said to it's kind of all in how you raise them too, that we feel like we did something wrong if
Yeah.
they turn out to have these behavior issues. But guess what? Like no one is perfect. No one is doing it 100% all the time.
No, and no
It's
one
just
you can't combat the
yeah,
genetics either. So you're 50%, I mean, I don't know what the actual ratio is, but
right.
you're also walking, how do I want to say it? You're like walking against the genetics as well. You know what I mean? In this
Yeah.
journey. So it's a journey where you're walking alongside that dog's genetics at the same time. And that is
Mhm.
something to remember and to give yourself grace. And I know it feels hard because I've been there. It is hard to give your dog grace sometimes. It was
Yeah.
really hard after a fight where Lucy tried to kill, and I mean, she was trying to kill Layla. It was
Mhm.
really hard to look at my dog who I loved so much and had spent so much time working with, to look at her afterwards and the blood
Mhm.
and everything, not to be graphic, but I mean, it really
Yeah.
is, it goes to the whole, all the emotions behind it.
Yeah.
And to just, it was really hard to sort of get back to a place. And I think that's normal. And I think that
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel bad about that either. Those
Mm.
emotions are real and they're raw.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff, when you have inner household stuff going on, when you have dog reactivity happening, when you have all these different behavior things where there is an element of shame, that's heavy, heavy stuff. Give yourself grace. Find moments to give your dog grace. Like, be kind to yourself. And like Christy said, like, try to find community, try to find people who will understand you. And if they don't understand you, man, just go in the opposite direction. Maybe that's not the friend that you talk to about your dog behavior problem.
Yeah.
We need to feel like we can find support in each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's been such a focus for so long on supporting our dogs, which is great. I love that. I wanna support our dogs in every way we can because 'cause they're,
Yes.
such an important part of my life. But I think sometimes we forget to support each other in
Yes.
that journey, and supporting your dog is supporting yourself too. Like, that's an important part. And so I think we need to think through, like, how we can better support each other
Yeah.
in those situations too. And it's sometimes it's not coming up with solutions for your friend who comes to you and says, "Hey, this is the situation I'm facing." Sometimes it's just listening. And sometimes you might have to ask, like, are you asking me as someone who can give advice or as just as your friend, you just want a listening ear? I think that's an important way to support each other too,
Yeah.
is to just be there and listen.
Yeah. Yeah, we have brought dogs into our lives in every single way, and I'm here for it, okay? I
Yeah,
mean,
me
what the
too.
hell? Dogs are legit everything in my life,
It's the best.
but we cannot forget the human element,
Yeah.
and we have to remember ourselves in that, and we have to make sure that we are okay. That shame spiral, it's really, really ugly. And I get it. And I've been there and I'll probably be there again at some point. But if you can just take a moment and kind of peek out and look for somebody who's, kind of holding up a flag for you and being like, "Hey," like safe harbor, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And just look for that person and open up to them. I really think that you might find some understanding you didn't expect and some
Mm.
honesty that you didn't expect, and things might not feel as shamey and as terrible as they were before, just because you have some solidarity and
Yeah.
somebody to share with.
And I think there's just kind of almost as a side note, I think shame sometimes leads to dangerous situations. I feel like people are ashamed that their dog is maybe not friendly with every dog,
Oh yeah.
or not friendly with people. And so they're like, oh no, they're great with other dogs, and shove them into a situation. And the dog's like, no, I hate other dogs. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And like, and then it's like, well, clearly I can't trust my owner. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta fight for my life here.
Yeah.
Or people reaching in like, "Oh, is your dog friendly?" I tell people she's not unfriendly. She'll
Yeah.
probably hurt your feelings because she'll sit by you and pretend to be your friend, and then you reach down to pet her and she moves away. And I was
Yeah.
like, I allow my dog to move away. Like if she
Yeah.
moves away, she does not want to be pet, do not pursue her. But I think a lot of people are like, no, you have to, no, my dog is friendly. Here, pet
My
them.
dog has to allow you
Mm,
to pet them. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. And so there's some shame in that.
yeah.
And some that's why I also don't trust people when they say my dog is friendly. That's okay. Thank you.
Christy's like, "I'll keep my fingers, thank you."
I would like to keep my fingers intact. I would like to keep my dog's
But
face intact.
but
Like,
all of but I do believe, okay, so part of this comes from a misunderstanding of dog behavior. So that's like a whole
true,
nother subject. But I
true.
do I do think you're right that there is an element of dogs being uncomfortable in situations, but people feel shamey about it. And so they
Yes.
want their dog to be that social butterfly.
Yeah.
And so
Because who
then,
doesn't?
right. So then we're pushing that on a
Mhm,
dog. And
mhm.
so it's like that whole shame spiral thing there. I get it. I get it. And it's
Yeah.
tough because I think it goes back to like, hey, this is your dog is an individual, and just understand who they are, and just, man, let that flag wave. Like if your dog does not want XYZ, go on, say it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't feel bad about it. Just be confident. I think that's why I don't care anymore, because I'm just like, look, this is the way it is. And
Yeah.
you don't have to feel shame about it. It's just, this is, feel good and feel confident in saying, this is who my dog is. And if we can all just open up more, then everyone will have the free space to say, hey, this is who my dog is. And we can all learn to like respect those boundaries. And then the shame doesn't have to happen because we're all just being open and we don't have to feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know I used to push Lucy beyond her limits at social
Yeah.
events and then would just, like, try to cover up her behavior.
Yeah.
"Oh, she's trying to muzzle punch you because she's friendly."
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Because
like,
we wouldn't
not
want a
like
pit
she's
bull to feel uncomfortable in any situation ever.
right, and I think, like, Heather's so good to be like, "Oh, my dog's over threshold. Looks like Lucy might be over threshold, like, we should leave," you know?
But that's Heather
And
today. Heather 5 years ago or 10 years ago, no, I probably would have asked way too much of my dog. There's a learning curve to that.
we know better now, we do better.
Yep.
But there's no shame in just saying, "Hey, my dog's over threshold, it's time for me to go." I can't imagine any one of my friends being like, "Really? Your dog's over threshold? Oh, how terrible." Like,
Right.
what a terrible dog. Like, I don't know what we're thinking when we're like ashamed of these things, like, oh, everyone will think this very normal thing
I
is
think because
is
we like made
horrible.
this culture of like dog, dog,
Yeah.
dog, dog, dog. And so
Yeah.
then that culture has turned into this, of course my dog can do everything. And of course my dog can XYZ. And of course my dog can handle, 7,500 people at a fireworks display. And of course.
Yeah.
And also because we want our dogs with us. So then we create this like whole thing. But we also don't want to be like, oh, my dogs don't like blah. It's such a complex thing. Okay, so to bring it back around, the point of this whole thing, try your best if you fall into the shame spiral to have somebody to reach out to and to give yourself some grace, give your dog some grace.
And I think most importantly, you're not alone.
You are not
You're
alone.
you're not
Absolutely
alone on
not.
this journey.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a position where you feel like you have to be alone in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dog ownership is a journey. And it's not just your dog's experiences with you, it is also their genetics. And the two
Yeah.
of those things come together to make the dog that you're living with. So
Mhm.
that goes back to being kind to yourself and not feeling that shame, like you have to wear the scarlet letter because XYZ happened to you or to your, with your dog.
Mhm.
I want us to feel more of a community and more supported in the things that we're
Yeah.
going through so that if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I'm going through this," then I can say, "Oh, you know what? I know somebody, I didn't personally go through that, but I know somebody who did, and I really think that you guys should connect so that you can share." Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
amazing?
That would be awesome. Yeah. To have that community and to be able to openly share
Yeah,
those struggles.
and not feel
Yeah.
judged.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you are going through something right now
Yeah.
and you feel like you're in that shame spiral, know that you're not alone
Yes.
and that we support you.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though we may not know what you're going through, know
Yeah.
that there's a community out there that is not judging you and does support you.
Yes. And if you, hey, this is not even like some silly like Instagram plug. Seriously, if you need support and you feel like you don't have that around you, hit us up on the DMs. We will chat with you. And you never know, you might find
Absolutely.
some community in us or someone we know that is going through
Mhm.
something similar to you. But please just like be kind to yourself and take care of yourself and take care of your dog and take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Take a breath.
That's the end for tonight. We appreciate everyone listening to us go on.
We just felt very passionate to let people know that so many people are going through something similar
Yeah.
without you knowing it.
Yeah.
So I think we just both feel very passionate about making sure our community feels supported too.
Yeah. And no one's alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
All
yes,
right.
so thanks for bearing with us, guys.
Yes. Thanks for bearing with us as we unload our souls onto the podcast floor and hit us up. We are at Sometimes There's Side Eye on Instagram. And if you like this episode, Christy already gave you the lowdown. Share
Yeah.
us, review us, all the things. And we
Yeah.
are dropping
Subscribe.
new episodes every other Thursday. So thanks for taking your time with us and have a great night.
Bye.